Hello folks, welcome to Pro Trader Strategies Market Commentary for Monday, March the 22nd. I'm Eric Wilkinson, and you very well may recognize me as the Wolfman from mainstream media, where I've talked about the economic data, geopolitical environment, how that all comes in to impact the markets with some of my market analysis. And I'm going to do the same thing in these daily market commentaries, but I'm also going to talk about these option strategies I'm implementing around these swing trades that I'm doing on any given daily basis. For you folks, I've streamlined that process in order to find the best option strategy for any type of directional assumption. And for that, we aren't just picking option strategies out of a hat like bullish assumption, we do a long call. No, what we're doing is looking at these underlyings and finding the best strategy suited for the situation we're looking at. So please check that out. We are streamlining that process like I mentioned. And without further ado, let's get on with the economic data. See how we're dealing with the markets right now. So across the pond, it's a Monday. There's not a whole lot to talk about. Here in the United States, though, it seems like all of the Fed governors, the FOMC members are speaking today. We've got Powell speaking in front of the Senate, I believe. And then we also have Barkin, Daly, Quarles, and Bowman all speaking at probably different events. Now that we are past the meeting, they had a lockdown for 2 weeks where they weren't allowed to talk about Fed policy. Well, that was last week. So this week they opened the doors up and are going to be talking quite a bit probably. All right, so the markets, Friday, we tried to claw some of those gains back with crude oil coming up a little bit short, still pretty much an inside day for crude oil yesterday. And I think that we are trying to climb a little bit, but it's just going to start rolling over. Now, when we were talking about Thursday, coming down and testing this 50-day simple moving average, it was going to trade with a 58 handle, and it did. So the market did go down there, touch that 50-day simple moving average, flushed out some of those longs, got maybe some of the weaker hands out. Now getting a little bit of a bounce. Remember, we always talk about how the markets will try to hurt the most people as often as possible. Well, this is a situation where I think that we've got a bit of a dead cat bounce. And what we used to say from that is you get a big free fall, you get a bounce. People start piling back in thinking the correction happened. And all that does is do a little bit of a bounce here. And what I'm talking about, so just as a drawing would go, a dead cat bounce would be when you have a nice trending underlying and then the market drops. Now that's the dead cat and the bounce, and usually that signals that we're going to drop a little bit further. So have we gotten a situation where we kind of do this and boom, a bounce and looking to roll back over? We're going to have to keep an eye on that, but that's what I would like to see here is this little bit of a dead cat bounce. Big correction. A lot of people probably panicked out. Friday moving into that market. Today could be that where the buyers meet the sellers. We get that bit of a pause, and then maybe the selling will resume. But that's what I would be looking for on a swing type trade. Shorter duration kind of dead cat bounce, play this to the downside. I haven't done anything in crude oil at this point, but I'm going to keep an eye on something like this where we're going to continue to see maybe some more weakness creep into this market. Bitcoin I just threw up there because we are very close to those 60,000 mark, and market continues to try to churn a little bit higher here. It is all of the news right now. Again, I don't have any position. I did have a position in gold here, and we are going to talk about that in a moment, but my GLD trade obviously was bullish and did not work out, and we'll talk about how that fits into my portfolio. Bonds, are we finding finally a bottom here where we have kind of churned down here and created a bottom? I don't know if that's the case at this point, but we get these bottoming patterns here. It's a bit of a sloppy one, but a confirmation on a move to the upside. Are we going to start seeing these bonds start to move higher? I think we are. I think the Fed is continuing to signal that they aren't going to raise interest rates. Yes, the bonds, the market is trying to signal to the Fed that they need to raise interest rates. Well, who's right and who's wrong. There's no real inflation. I think that this is really the market trying to force the hand of the Fed, and I don't believe that Powell is going to break here. Who's going to blink first? I don't think it's going to be Powell. So market's trying to clamor away a little bit here. I think it's well overdone to the downside, and there is a correction that is needed in that market. And VIX out of the 20s. All right. Is this going to be a new paradigm? We've been seeing this elevated for a very long time where we haven't really gone and settled below that 20 handle and in the teens very often. But today we have a couple of moves there where we are the last week we have had a couple of moves that looks like this could be sustained. Now I talked about higher volatility throughout the remainder of 2021. I think that we are going to see the 20s as the new teens, where that was a higher elevation, volatility. All right, E-mini S&P is trying to make a move to the upside, up about 54 points. NASDAQ leading the way, up 250 on the day. Tech stocks doing well. Those bank stocks we talked about, some of the reopened trades, not doing so well, as we're seeing the airlines start to weaken a little bit here, but we are seeing some strength across the board, at least last I checked, in the tech stocks for the most part. And we can see E-mini S&P is moving higher here by about 28 ticks on the day. Penn is in the E-mini S&Ps now, and Portnoy is talking that game up quite a bit here. But we can see with the breakdown of the E-mini S&Ps, I was going to say we were going to get an inside day here as the point of controls were kind of lining up quite nicely. Inside day, but now we're starting to break out above that. Now the last 30 minutes or so has drawn that value area a little bit higher as people are starting to accept value higher here. So that is a very bullish sign here. We got overnight inventory maybe a little bit long, and then some real strength into today. I think that we're going to see some strength throughout the day. Maybe some more weakness around that reopening trade would be my guess. But for the most part, I think we're going to see some tech strength here throughout the day. All right, let's talk about my trades. Walmart, you guys remember. If you guys remember with Walmart, try and add some of this stuff to my portfolio. Well, it did not work out very well. I let both of those expire worthless in this trade here. So I had on the March was long the 155 calls and the 150 calls in there that I had paid $4.95, $4.55 for those trades. And I pulled the ripcord on those, or I didn't actually pull the ripcord on them. I just let them expire worthless. So those two trades did not work out with Walmart. Obviously, when I put that trade on, market continued to slide away from me. Being long calls, I need that directional move. It did not happen, and I didn't get volatility to help me out either. But both of those things, just a wrong directional move here for me. I was expecting it to go up and print newer highs, but that reopening trade rotation did not work in Walmart's favor there for that. And then, so that I let expire on Friday. We also had GLD where I was long some calls in GLD. That did not work out, obviously, as we can see GLD went to the south. And having said that, I was in the March long the 175 calls in there for $4.55, and I did that small, but it did go against me. Market moved in the wrong direction. That's one of the catches we talk about when we're trading options, is what's the catch with the long call? Well, those options, if they expire out of the money, are worth zero, and that's what happened with those. They expire worthless and no longer exist. So those March 175 calls that I was long with a market move against me, long calls out of the money, are not worth anything because all of that time decay has decayed. Why buy something higher than where it currently is, right? There is no benefit to owning something higher than where it currently is. So therefore, we just let those expire worthless. If I really wanted it, I'd go in there and buy it today, which I'm not going to do. And then also we had IBM on Friday. You guys have been playing along with this trade. I've been trading this in and out, selling some covered calls, looking to have it called away from me. Well, we were getting very close to that, right, folks? We have on the long stock for IBM from back during the earnings here. So in the earnings, I got long IBM by selling some puts. I'm long at 120. Well, I am lowering my overall cost basis throughout time here and have lowered it almost $5 at this point in time. I let those short calls expire worthless. And if you guys remember, with IBM, like I said, been rolling these out in time. And with that said, these March short calls, I sold the 130 calls in there. And actually, Thursday, Friday, we were getting tested on those. As a matter of fact, the highs in Friday was very into the 30s by a blip. But as that market sold off and settled just below that 130 handle, any option out of the money will expire worthless. They will go off. They will no longer exist. And with that being said, short the 130 calls when that settles below 130. Now, I'm sorry, I wasn't here on Friday, folks. That was my kid's spring break, and we went up north to go snowboarding. But I was keeping an eye on the markets and keeping a very close eye on this IBM right around lunchtime Pacific, and saw that it was going to expire worthless. So I was fine with that. Good to let those expire. So those, I'm still long this overall trade at 120. Lowered the overall cost basis in this trade by very close to $5 now with getting that collection on those 130 calls that I let expire worthless. It was pretty tentative going back and forth there, folks, into the last day because it was toggling back and forth and very close to my short strike. So, but with that said, settled out of the money, making a move to the upside today. I was considering looking at doing some more covered calls in this, but we can see here that we have an earnings coming up within the next option cycle. So with that being said, I'm probably going to look to cover it at least this time because we know from past experience that IBM has a very serious tendency to sell off. So I'm going to look to cover this trade on the long side before earnings and then possibly go in there and start selling some cash secured puts for that earnings, for the correction, and get a very nice strike location and continue to roll this stock the same way that we did it the last time with covered calls, selling cash secured puts if it gets called away from us, and stay mechanical with a trade like this, lowering that overall cost basis. Best way to increase your overall yield in your portfolio. And finally, with Deere, Deere has had a massive run, and we can see that we've got a topping pattern happening here from Thursday, confirmation Friday right there, and then today maybe making a bit of a bottom, but it looks to me like I'm going to see some more weakness here, at least for the near term, and maybe trade back down to around this level. So that lines up quite nicely with a 350 strike in Deere. So with that said, went into the June, got out there in that time frame where we're going to be seeing some earnings. So that volatility expansion will help me out going into that earnings. So if I get that directional move, volatility expanding, all of those things working in my favor, this trade will work very nicely. If I just get the directional move, I still think that we're going to start seeing some volatility creep into this heading into that earnings. So that will also help as well. So going to play this out for a little bit. If we start getting a bit of a rebound, maybe even testing those all-time highs right around 393, I'm going to look to pull the ripcord on this trade if it starts breaking up on this pattern, because we are still seeing higher highs and higher lows throughout this trend. But with this type of move, it makes one feel like there needs to be some type of correction rather soon. So I'm going to play this, add some negative deltas with Deere on that trade, and went into, like I said, the June 350 puts, paid $13.45. Again, did it very small. Market has moved a little bit higher since I put that trade on, so it doesn't. So it's underwater at this point. So you can probably get better strike location and premium if you decide to play around with Deere to the downside. And that's it. That's all I've done. Let the Walmart expire worthless. Let the gold expire worthless. Covered calls in IBM continue to lower my overall cost basis, staying mechanical with that trade, and added deer to get some negative deltas in my portfolio. If this overall market starts throwing a tantrum here, then I will have some negative deltas in there with that love trade and now deer. Those are both adding possible downside protection here. All right, and that's all I've done so far. And we are starting a new series. It is going to be how to use options in and around swing trades, folks. So make sure you check that out. Swing trades are a little bit longer duration than day trades, and we'll be breaking down all of that information for you in this upcoming series. So make sure you check that out at protraderstrategies.com. Also, if you like this video, give me a thumbs up, show me some love, share it with a friend. Also, if you have any questions, comments, or anything else, throw them down there in that section below, because I will make sure I reach out to you guys and respond, because I want to make sure everybody is clear of concept before moving forward. That's all I got, other than if you can't take that, take it easy. Oh, yeah, and hey, make sure you take a moment to go over this disclaimer at the end here. All right, bye for now.